This week, we welcome Sam Gladston, also known as Rhys Indigo Drag Queen, pro wrestling manager, and podcast co-host of Is It Camp?
Howdy.
Howdy. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Really appreciate you being here. I want to talk to you about all of the things that you do. I'm super interested because there's wrestling involved, and everybody knows I love the wrestling. There's theatrics. There's all kinds of great things that we're going to talk about, which I can't wait to get into. But before I do that, I just want to say hi to the co-hosts because we haven't seen each other for a little while either. For some reason, we're not recording every week, but we've got to start getting back into that. It'll happen very soon. So I don't see these guys all the time. So let's catch up a little bit. Sean, how have you been?
I've been good, man. It's been weird not being on the show the last couple of times. But no,
very disappointed.
This weekend,
I'm kidding.
I'm out of touch recently. No, but I've been working on season 5 of Planet Pointless with John the last couple of weeks, which is good. We actually got to go watch Dinosaur Jr. this past weekend, which was fun. So that was a good show. Yeah, no, we're just chilling out, trying to come up with new ideas and figure out how to be funny. It's not working very well.
Funny. See, that's what I love about this show. We don't try and be funny. We just have a conversation. You know,
we have to try. We have to physically and emotionally and spiritually try to be funny.
You can't tell from listening to it. I'll tell you that. It sounds pretty. It just kind of flows out of you. So
yeah, it's a great podcast. If nobody's caught Planet Pointless, you got to go check it out.
I do have some beef with you right now, though, and we'll get into that. And we have a whole future episode planned around the beef that I have with you, Sean, about your feelings about the band Tool. But
that wasn't me. That was John.
Was it John? Okay, I'll take it up with John.
John got canceled.
I like Tool. Tool's cool. I like Tool.
Oh wow, that was harsh feelings about the band Tool. The hair on the back of my neck was just like tingling.
Brian was just gonna lose his shit about that too.
As he's saying it, I guarantee he's thinking. But he's just like, fuck it, I'm gonna let it go.
Yeah.
But no, I love it. Sam, just so you know what we're talking about, I'm a huge Tool fan. And I was listening to the Planet Pointless podcast, and I love these guys. I love them to death. And I'm so thankful that they're both on this podcast because they're such a different generation than me. They have different viewpoints than I do. And I personally believe that in life, you need that. You need to have contrast, and you need to have people that can talk through it and learn why he hates Tool so much. You know what I mean? Like,
I absolutely disagree with you. I think we need to be on the same page for everything.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And more importantly, we need to find out why John is wrong.
Yes, that's okay. So that's the big question, like personal tastes, and we're gonna do a whole episode on personal tastes as expression. Personal tastes are so different, and it's fascinating to me how one person could hear this kind of music and think, oh my God, this is God's gift to music. Another person can hear it and think it's shit. And I just don't know how that happens. So that'll be a very interesting conversation. Sorry to keep on talking. Thanks for being here, Sean. Appreciate you, man. Mark, how have you been?
No, I've been awesome. I took a hiatus. I know I've missed quite a few shows. My wife and I vacationed down to Southern Ontario. For those that don't know, I live in Thunder Bay, Ontario. So,
I lived in Thunder Bay for a year.
Yeah, it's a nice place. Yeah, but we got to see the stadium tour when it went through Toronto. So that was a great show with what was it, Motley Crue, Poison, Def Leppard, and Joan Jett, which was amazing. I mean, Joan Jett put on an awesome show. Of course, when we came back, we all had COVID, so that was fun. We're not entirely sure where we caught it from, but we did go see Brian at work, so maybe Brian know him.
Yes, that's what it was. It was definitely not the concert.
Yeah, it wasn't
nobody wearing masks.
It wasn't the super spreader event we were at.
Yes.
Henry's virus.
Yeah,
so we were there, and then while I was sick with COVID, I did something stupid, and I bought a new guitar online. So I'm excited for it to arrive. It's actually shaped like this one here, the pointy guitar. So it's I've got it. It's en route. I've got a tracking number now. It's been shipped from Ontario, California, which is interesting. So it's on its way. So it should be at Ryden's Border Store by this time next week, and I'll be able to go pick it up. So that's pretty cool. I'll pop across over to Minnesota and get my guitar and
Minnesota
exorbitant duty fees and things like that. And what else? Oh, I have to say I get a kick out of this because those of you who don't know, I work at Mark's. I'm the general manager at Mark's Work Warehouse here in Thunder Bay, and I love it when I answer the phone. And at least once a day, I answer the phone. I say, "Thank you for calling Mark's. Mark speaking. How can I help you?" And of course, at least once a day, you're like, "Wait, Mark at Mark's?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So this guy today, he says, "Wait, was that a prerequisite to get the job?" And I said, "Well, it was. It was actually before I interviewed. My name was Steve, and they made me change my name to Bob. So
every general manager's name is
Mark." And they're like, and he goes, "Really? Are you serious?" I said, "No, I'm not serious at all." It's
and I live in an igloo too.
But yeah, I just love it, right? And every day there's a customer that goes, "Mark at Mark's, that's awesome." And the best part is if I happen to be on cash and somebody's like, "Oh, would you like a bag for that?" And they're like, "Oh, yeah, sure." I'll go, "Tell you what, give you a fancy bag with my name on it," and I bag their stuff for them. And some of them clue in that I'm Mark, and others don't. But some of them just look at what, and then
you don't have like a name tag that says like Marks.
Yeah, it just says Mark on it, right? Well, it's Mark Gross, right? Anyways,
it's funnier because it's actually, I shouldn't say it's funnier, but it's equally as funny because in our store we have Aurora who works in Newmarket.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually just going to add to that conversation on a regular basis. Actually, like a couple times a day when I answer the phone, it's like, "Hi, Henry's Newmarket, Aurora speaking." And they're like, "I'm sorry, did I call the Aurora location?"
I called the wrong store.
And I'm like, "No, there isn't an Aurora location. You're calling Henry's Newmarket. My name is just Aurora."
Yeah.
We need to ban naming children after places and naming businesses after people.
I know, right?
Yeah, that's the answer. That's the fix.
Yeah.
Yeah, but as a reminder, I'm not the Mark. I'm a Mark. So I finished it. But anyways, I've been awesome. It's been great. My dad was here for a month, and he flew home on Wednesday. And as soon as he landed in Toronto, he was stuck in traffic for 3 hours, which does not happen in Thunder Bay. Stan can attest to that. So yeah.
Yay. Well, I'm glad Keith had a good time. It was really cool seeing him with a big smile on his face.
It was a lot of fun having him here and showing him around the area. And I got him out to see the James Whalen, which was the tugboat that sunk on our waterfront just in time because they brought it up this week or last week. They brought it up on Friday. So I got to see it in its new perch, all covered in mud. I think they're waiting for it to rain to clean it off. So. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Awesome.
Fantastic. That thing is just a disaster waiting to happen if it was just staying in the water.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Aurora, good to see you.
Good to see you too.
It's
been a day.
I know, it's been a day. Sam, Aurora is the store manager of our store.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not his store, not mine.
My store.
Yeah,
where
it's
you
been
were.
a while since I've seen
the Newmarket, not the Aurora.
Yes, the Newmarket.
That's right, the Newmarket.
Very not Mark.
Although
Newmarket,
if we do
Aurora.
ever open an Aurora location, I'm pretty sure it's a requirement for me to become the manager.
I think that'll
over there.
be absolutely.
And then,
if they ever did that, I would have to quit Newmarket and move.
well, no, you just change your name to Henry, and then you would be Henry at Henry's.
There's never been a Henry. His name was actually Harry.
Yeah.
He just didn't want to call it Harry, so he called it Henry's. Anyway, we're squirreling badly, and I really want to talk to Sam. Aurora, is there anything else you wanted to say before we talk to Sam?
I'm just counting down the days till my vacation. I'm super excited for that. I have 13 days and 12 hours before I leave. So I'm like,
nice.
woo! I have a little countdown on my Instagram. I'm really excited about it.
You have to say where you're going.
Yeah.
Not exactly, because you don't want people to show up at your hotel room, but
I'm going to,
this is exciting.
I'm going to Nashville.
Tennessee.
I'm not a big country music fan, but my friend I'm going with, she is a huge country music fan. But I'm just super excited. There's lots of cool photo opportunities. We're going to stay at this really cool retro 70s looking motel. We're going to take a lot of good pictures of each other. But both me and my friend are photographers, so we're planning out these little photo shoots that we're going to be doing the whole time. And yeah, a lot of fun stuff planned for it. And I haven't had a vacation in what seems like forever. So super excited for that.
Yeah, I'm excited for you. That's going to be a great trip.
And you can get a Nashville hot chicken sandwich, authentic from Nashville.
Exactly. I'm excited for that.
There's
so much good food. Like,
ice cream on the hot chicken sandwich?
No. Okay, so yeah, Swiss Chalet. I don't know why they did that. I don't think that's a Southern thing.
Yeah, they put ice cream on their hot chicken sandwich at Swiss Chalet. It was like a dollop of ice cream.
Why?
God, thank you. I don't know why.
I wanted to
sure it
throw
was ice cream and not like mashed potatoes or something?
No, it's ice cream. It's ice cream. There's two versions. There's a Nashville hot chicken sandwich, and then it's called something else, but it has a Nashville hot sauce on the chicken, and then it has a scoop of ice cream on top. And then we asked the waitress if someone had ever ordered it, and she said yes. It was only really like teenage boys who just wanted to eat whatever they wanted to eat. So yeah.
Yum. Not. Well, I'm excited for your trip. I've got my own trip coming up in like 10 days as well. I'm going up to a cottage with no electricity, which is why I've bought this little power bank that's showing up soon, which I'm stoked about. You're going to power my Mac computer and so on. I heard your dog running around. I thought it was Dixie here scampering.
Oh, no. Chris just let him in, and they got to come in. Let me know they're in. We went outside. We barked.
Oh, God.
All right. I'm looking at that sandwich. Yeah, no, I wouldn't order that.
No.
It's disgusting.
But it looks like there's butterscotch sauce on it.
Oh,
yeah, I think so.
Oh, that's
totally
worse.
At this point, I'll eat anything with sugar. I don't give a shit.
Oh, sorry, it's honey. Vanilla ice cream drizzled with honey.
Oh, honey and a Nashville chicken sandwich, I get.
Yes.
I was going to say, next to the ice cream.
Yeah.
No, maybe there's something there. Who knows, right? But
I will be finding out, and I'm perfectly fine with that. Anyway.
It's just Swiss Chalet right by my work.
No, I'm good. I'm good. Thanks. Sam, let's talk about some fun stuff with you, my friend. I really appreciate you being here. Again, let's just go over quickly how we met. You were at our store at Henry's, and you were printing some 8x10s.
Not some, a lot.
Yeah, let's. and of course, on the printer, which by the way we have since removed since you were in our store, there were these things that said up to 50 prints, and of course, Henry's police kicks in, and I hear you want to print 300 prints, and I'm like, I don't think so. And so we're trying to work it out, and you were pleading your case, and I was like, hang on, I'm standing far away, not really helping you. It was somebody else that was helping you, and I hear you say you're printing 8x10s for Super Kicked, and I'm a wrestling guy. I know Super Kicked, and I keyed right into it. And I'd been there a few times. I was there with Danny Granger. I don't know if you know Danny Granger.
Yeah, no, I know Danny Granger, the artist, right?
Yeah, exactly. He was on our show previously as well. But I've known him for years. So I was there with Danny and loved Super Kicked. And when you mentioned it, I was like, okay, hang on. What's going on here? We found out the story. We tried to print as many as we could for you. And by the way, we are out of paper currently. So that does happen.
And the printer's gone. So
yeah. But the reason we took those signs off is because the next day when I heard about you coming into the store and trying to print all the prints, I was like, no, Brian, we can actually print that many prints. If we run out of paper, too bad for the customer, but we can actually do that. So you don't have to worry about that now, Sam.
No.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about that. Come by anytime.
I changed the rules.
I'm going in to print 51.
Okay.
But then you started telling me about cross-dressing and the wrestling side of what you do. So I'm going to throw it to you, Sam. Please explain to us what is your creative passion and how you can involve the cross-dressing with wrestling. I'm fascinated.
Okay, so first things first, it's not cross-dressing.
Thank you. Correct me, please, because I'm stupid.
No, it's okay.
I get the things wrong. I'm old and I have bad terminology. So if I make a mistake, please.
One of the big things is drag is an art form. And
Aurora's shaking. She tried correcting me on this earlier, by the way.
Yesterday.
Yeah.
It used to be this idea that it was men who dress up as women, and that's drag. Right. And there's a whole history to the art form itself, but essentially what drag has come to evolve to mean is it's any kind of exaggerated self-expression, usually using the medium of gender. So you can have drag queens, which is what I am, right? You can have drag kings, who are people who dress in a hyper masculine way. And then you can have drag royalty, which is the non-binary version of that, where it doesn't really matter what they're dressing as, so long as it's bigger and more and expressive and over the top, right? It's the makeup, the hair, the clothing. So it's really grown and evolved in order to become one of those things that's, it's an art form that says everybody's welcome. You can express yourself however you want, right? There's like a subsection of drag called club kids. And what club kids do is that they go to clubs, you know, but they show up in these outfits that are 100% impractical, over the top. Like if somebody were to show up and they've just glued like as many inflatable candy canes to their entire outfit. And you know, it sounds like a joke, but there's people out there who do that because it's the expression of, can I make an outfit that is just candy cane? Right? Can I do this outfit that looks like somebody's ripped apart 1,000 Beanie Babies and sewn them all together to make this? Right? It's fashion, it's dancing, it's comedy, it's all kinds of stuff rolled into one. And you get so many different kinds of drag that it's really incredible. So it's very different from the idea of cross-dressing in that it is this expression of the self, as opposed to, I mean, I don't even think we really use the term cross-dressing much anymore anyway, because I mean, no, it's okay. It's I mean, it's coming to the idea that essentially gender is a work, right? Like somebody at some point decided boys wear pants, girls wear skirts. It's like, but it's got nothing to do with anything, right?
Yeah.
So wear what you want, as long as you're comfortable and it's not hurting someone, right? And I mean, like, you know, 5 foot long train, you're probably going to trip over something if you work in a welding facility. Probably not the best idea. So
I want to clarify something you just
Yeah.
said, though. Gender is a work. Now, work is something I understand from the wrestling world. It's, you know, it's let you explain it.
So in wrestling, there's this idea that everything kind of breaks down into two categories. There's work and there's shoot. And this all comes from old like Carney
Kayfabe,
language,
yeah.
and kayfabe, right? Where it's this idea that what we're presenting to the audience, if me and Brian have a beef, and you know, I'm the good guy and he's the bad guy, and then I go to Tim Hortons and I'm ordering a coffee and he walks in, well then, oh holy shit, you're my nemesis and I'm gonna fucking fight you in this Tim Hortons to keep up. And then meanwhile, you know, 45 minutes later we meet up at the motel and go like, wow, that was wild what we did at Tim Hortons there. All right. And that's part of the work. You know, what we do in the ring is part of the work, right? But every once in a while something comes through that's a shoot where it's real stuff, right? Like if Brian and I legitimately had a beef and you know what, I just came in and I said, I've had enough of this fucking guy, and I clock him, it's a shoot. So sometimes in wrestling you will get guys who have legitimate problems with each other or whatever happens, and something true slips through, and that's what we call a shoot. So getting back to gender is a work, it's coming down to the idea that we made all this stuff up. It's got nothing to do with any biology beyond like, I want to keep myself warm and I'm going to wear clothes. But beyond that, the size of our heels have changed back and forth. Men used to be the ones wearing heels more so than women. Men wore makeup more so than women for a long time too. But then that changed, right? Various cultures around the world have men or women both in skirts, no skirts, hoops, rings, who cares, right? Jewelry, yes, no, back, forth. And there's nothing really dictating it beyond, like, at some point, some old guy said, you're going to keep dressing this way, otherwise it's wrong. And that's what I mean by gender being a work, right? That my expression, your expression, you're just expressing who you are, and that's it. I'm going to express myself how I am, and that's it. And it's just the way we are.
Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a big difference in philosophy from somebody of my generation, right? In general, you're born a guy or you're born a girl, and a lot of people still carry that to this day. And there's so much bullshit in the world for people forcing that view on other people that the parades have to happen, and all these things have to happen, and people have to keep on hearing that, let people be people. And that's, I mean, in this day and age especially, that's very frustrating to me, because I lived in the States for quite a while, and to have the experiences that I had living in the United States, and literally the day after high school to say, screw this country, I'm out of here, I'm going back home to Canada, because of the experiences I had living in the States. Now, I know more than half of our listeners live in the States. So please, if you're hearing this, hear it from a place of, do better, because I got out the second I could. And now looking back at it, it's only gotten worse in how people are controlling how other people can live, and all these things. And it's really frustrating. So it's a breath of fresh air to hear that this is something that's progressing, especially in the world of pro wrestling, which isn't necessarily known as being a very friendly environment to people like that. So, however, to stay on that point for a quick second, two things. First, I want to congratulate you for being able to, I asked you what your top 5 moments were, to getting to walk on stage at a Super Kick show as your authentic self. So that is huge. In my opinion, that's huge. Again, coming from this place I was just talking about in the world of pro wrestling, how it's not necessarily accepted. So first thing is, how did that come about? And is that something you're going to be doing more often?
So when you say how did that come about, you mean that moment, or how did the
moment
drag
itself
wrestling persona?
No, the moment itself specifically. The drag wrestling persona, I mean, that would be great to hear how that all happened as well. But the question was more just, when you got up on stage or you got in the ring, I assume, and you did your thing. I'd love to hear how that came about, how you worked with Super Kick to make that happen, if there were any hurdles to make that happen, or if it just naturally, they're just awesome people and they said, this is what we got to do.
Yeah. So the match in question was, it was our annual sort of Royal Rumble kind of thing. We call it Rumble in the Dot. And of course it's 30 people, right? I don't know if all of you three know what a Royal Rumble is, how those work. Yes, no.
Roughly.
So the idea is you start with the ring, and the first guy comes in, gets his entrance music, gets to go into the ring, do whatever, and then a second guy is announced, comes into the ring, and the match basically starts at that point. And then every minute and a half, and I'm going to put that in quotation marks because it's not always a minute and a half, a new contestant enters the ring. And so what happens is, depending upon the size of the show, depending upon how many contestants they do, they can do 10, they can do 20, they can do 30. I think one of the highest I'd ever heard of was 50, and that just seems like such a long night to be sitting there. Anyway, the point is, it's one after the other, after the other, after the other, constantly coming in. The only way
sounds like somebody's making like a get together into a house party.
Yeah,
that's the best way I can think of it.
I'm just trying to think of the logistics of this. Is this like everybody's in the ring at the same time? These 20
potentially,
people, these 30.
Yeah,
depends. So the only way to eliminate somebody from a Royal Rumble match is to send them over the top rope, and both of their feet have to touch the ground. Okay. Now, of course, because of those very specific rules, you can play around with it a lot, right? Like some guys don't touch both feet to the ground. If they touch one foot, they can hop back over and hop back into the ring. If you don't go over the top rope, you go through the second rope and you land on the floor, you're still in the match. You can get back in the ring.
Somebody catches you, they can put you back in.
Yeah, you fall onto a chair.
You land on your hands.
Yes.
You can hand walk.
We're just going to name Kofi Kingston things at this point. Right?
There, it's back and forth with Kofi for the next 5 minutes.
And so the idea is that you build in all kinds of stories, because a lot of these characters have previous interactions of previous matches being like, oh, I hate that guy. And maybe those two people will never see each other in that match, or they might be back to back coming out, right? You never know. So for that show, I think I was entrant like number 21 by that point. And I came out and I was told essentially what you do, you walk out, do a pose outside, go into the ring, start the match, because you're technically not in the match until you get into the ring. So I come out and my entrance music at the time was by a French Vietnamese artist called Mylan, a song called Nail Polish. And so I've come out, I've got the wig on, I've got the, God, what was I wearing at that point? I can't even remember what my outfit was, but anyway, full face of makeup, outfit on. And, my idea was I was just going to do a couple things, pose, get into the ring, let's get the show started. Well, when I came out, the house just went wild, right? Huge applause. And I was like, oh, holy shit, they're super into this. And one of the things that you're taught is if the crowd's really into something, you don't cut them off. You have to let them feel it out. You have to let them ride that wave for as long as possible. So I was just like, well, I'm here. My music's going. It's a song. So I'm just going to do as much as my song until they cut me off. Well, I got through a minute and a half of the song before it was like, oh, next guy's coming in. Okay, all right. And I got to go in. But having the whole club go nuts for it, I get into the ring. And like the whole time that I've been outside, I can see various people who are still fighting at the same time. They are stopping to look over and see what the fuck is going on. Can I swear on this? I'm sorry.
You can.
Okay,
You can.
all right. Yeah, they're like, what's going on? Who's this? Right. And I'm just doing my thing on the outside. And I managed to get in. And the first person who comes up to me is Jake something. And he's, look at me. He's huge. He's a monster. All right. He's great. And he just, walks up to me and I hit him and he goes down. And because I'm a big guy. I'm not, like his kind of big, but I'm still a big guy. And so I'm just knocking people down left and right and, enjoying myself. And then we were supposed to have this spot where somebody comes in and knocks out like 5 of us in a row with the same moves, right? Boom, 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 boom. And that's Jake something. Yeah.
Big dude.
And instead, I had talked to him beforehand and I'm like, you have to knock 5 people, eliminate 5 people in a row within like 20 seconds. I'm going to make this a little bit easier on you. You only got to do 4. I'm just going to leave of my own accord. Right. So there I was watching 4 other dudes get their asses handed to them, thrown out of the ring, their feet landing on the ground. And I just go, oh, nope. Pull the rope down. I walk out. I put both feet on the ground and just, bye-bye, everyone.
I'm not dealing with that.
I'm not ruining this. I'm not ruining my whole look.
Sticking to the gimmick.
And afterwards, my coach took me aside and he was like, who told you to just leave the ring? And I said, I'm really sorry. I thought living in the character, I would be the kind of person who would become an instant coward the second this is getting threatened. he's like, "No, it's perfect. It worked well."
It's
just like, oh, my heart.
I have to ask, is that the only time you've been in the ring in drag?
No. I've done it a couple more times since. A couple more times in actual matches. I did a 7-man scramble in one where, with my entrance, I was dancing on the outside again, and I went to grab the rope, and I jumped up, and I landed square on my ass on the outside of the ring, and I just was like, "Oh fuck!" And I rolled back, and I was just like, "Oh, look, it's fun choreography, everyone." I cannot feel anything from my waist down.
Oh no!
Oh,
But
no.
I did the rest of the match. I just landed really hard on my butt, but yeah, since that point, I've had to stop wrestling, unfortunately, because so I had a medical diagnosis during the pandemic, and essentially it's a genetic thing. I've got what's called factor V Leiden, and I'm like a reverse Romanov with my family, where the Romanovs were all hemophiliacs, and you cut them and they bleed and bleed and bleed. We do the opposite, where you don't even have to cut us, and our blood goes, "Hey, how does a clot sound?"
Oh man!
And so my doctor was like, "You're wrestling and you clot easily, you're gonna stop wrestling."
Yeah,
So
that could be all kinds of trouble.
yeah, so instead, talking with my coach, I was like, "What if I become a manager?" And that's why now I'm a pro wrestling drag manager, and I get matched up with whoever needs it, and still do matches. I mean, we did one over the weekend in Windsor, somewhere near Windsor, something like that. But got to have a match, and lots of fun. Walk around in my metallic pink snakeskin boots, and
Nice.
yeah.
I don't know too many other wrestlers that wear that, but that's fantastic.
If that became more of a thing where there was more wrestlers in drag, I might actually be able to get my wife out to watch some of it. She's a huge fan of like RuPaul's Drag Race and whatnot, and knows a lot of the ladies that are there. We saw we had Bianca Del Rio came through Thunder Bay, so we went to see her show, and that was awesome. And we've got next week, I think it's Alyssa Edwards is in town, so we're going to see her show. So I didn't even ask my wife. I saw the tickets were for sale, and I just bought them because I'm like, yeah, I know I'm going to have a good time. So
oh yeah, guaranteed. But there are a couple drag queen wrestlers. They're very spread out at the moment. There's in the UK there is Priscilla, Queen of the Ring, as well as Visage, and in the States there's another manager called Pollo Del Mar, and she calls herself the manager of champions, but I've yet to see a single champion under her wings. So
shots fired.
I know.
Oh man!
But there have been classically very many, let's say, flamboyant wrestlers. Like there's
Adrian
some
Adonis, perfect example.
Adrian Street, Johnny B. Bad, Goldust, Gorgeous George. I mean, maybe not to the same extent as wearing different clothes, whatever, but the flamboyant attitude, and some of them were wearing big capes, and I mean, the theatrics of it have been a part of wrestling for forever, but the acceptance side of it, maybe not.
One of the things that I know a lot of LGBTQ fans of wrestling say is like, wrestling's drag. It is drag. You've got people choosing to portray hyper exaggerated versions of themselves with costumes and hairstyles, and granted, they're not lip syncing and doing all kinds of numbers and heels, but they've got choreography, and guys are increasing the heel height on their boots in order to look a little bit taller, and it's hyper masculinity for a lot of people, but then there's also the hyper femininity of the female divisions. So it's all over the place, right? And it is much better, I think, because the LGBTQ acceptance is moving forward better in the mainstream, that now people want to see that reflected more in popular culture, whether it's more Marvel movies with LGBTQ characters, or cartoons or wrestling or music or whatever, right? Like if somebody like Lil Nas X had come out 20 years ago, he would not have the career he has right now.
Yeah.
But here he is. So I think it's a great time for wrestling, to be a wrestling fan, because you're really spoiled for choices in terms of what do you want to see in a performer? Do you want to see big meat guys slapping meat with each other? Great. There's like 500 of them, right? You want to see like some extreme emo, death match, tons of blood all over the place. Great. Tons of those guys. You want to see somebody being a weird little goblin dude? There's Danhausen. Right? No shade to Danhausen. I love the weird little goblin dude. But whatever you want, it's out there. And I think the same is becoming more true of drag. Now, unfortunately, RuPaul's Drag Race is still behind in the times for a few things. In terms of, it's only the queens that are on the show. Yeah. There's not much representation of drag kings.
See, I didn't even know about that, and that's why this conversation's already been so awesome for me. I had no clue, and it's because of things like the RuPaul Drag Race that I don't see those things. I don't know that that's a thing.
So if you want to see something like that, there's another show called Boulet Brothers Dragula. Right? And Dragula is more of a horror themed drag competition. The first two seasons are real rough to watch because it's very clear, like, we filmed this in someone's basement. Yeah. But the challenges are the same. Like, this week we want you all to dress up as witches, and so you get to see all these different people appearing as witches and doing stuff, and it's like, wow, this is cool.
It was Dragula?
Yeah, like the Rob Zombie song.
Yeah.
Right. And
Boulet Brothers.
Yeah, Boulet Brothers Dragula. But as the seasons went on, the Boulet Brothers were like, this is a drag competition open to anyone. There's no gender identity. So the winner of season 3 was a drag king named Landon Cider. Yeah, and the jokes write themselves. Yeah. And he's incredible. Like, from episode 1, you're like, he's winning. There's nobody else in this competition that's on that level. Okay. And they're coming up. And the big difference in the shows is that rather than do like a lip sync for your life that they do in Drag Race, they do like a fear factor kind of challenge where it's like, cool, you're in your drag, you two are at the bottom, we're gonna go parachute diving. It's like, what? Or we're gonna bury you in a box for half an hour and see how that goes. Right? So all kinds of weird stuff, and then they judge based upon how well they handled this fear factor style thing. And then they do a little vignette where they kill the person. So, well, kill the person, but if you like a little more horror and a little more representation, Boulet Brothers, you're going to see some really interesting stuff.
Yeah, I'll have to let Chris know. That'd be awesome. She loves to watch these things, and I'll sit down. She want me to turn off? Nope. I'm entertained, right? That's it. We had, just before COVID happened, I had moved to Thunder Bay, and I was living here alone, but while the house closed, and I went to a drag show downtown, down in Port Arthur, and there was one drag king at that show, and it was, again, I mean, I'm there with my camera, and I had just such a great time. It was probably like one of the best times I've had in Thunder Bay, and I was just there alone. But the crowd, the energy, right, the performers, it was just so much fun, right? So it was, definitely. We're gonna check this show out too. So
cool. There's so many other things to talk about too, though. Like you got into Dragula, and the first thing I thought was Elvira, and then that brings me back to your podcast. So I want to talk about the podcast a little bit. Unless you guys have any other questions about the wrestling before I move on. No?
Right. Well, I mean, I have a few questions. The one main question I'm thinking about is, like, how did this all start for you? Like, was it the wrestling first? Was it the drag first? Was it, and then when did it become melded between the two? That's kind of, I'm trying to get like the picture of it.
No, so okay. Yeah. I did not get into wrestling or drag until I was about 30.
Oh, wow.
And wrestling, I never understood. I was like like even as a kid, I was just, why are these two guys fighting? Oh, they're done fighting. Okay, well, why are these two guys fighting? Oh, they're done fighting too. I don't get this, right? And it wasn't until much later I had a friend show me a video by, unfortunately, Max Landis called "Wrestling Isn't Wrestling," which is about the rise and fall and overall story of Triple H. And when it was put into a context of, this is a story that's unfolding over the course of years, and you can see this person change and grow, but the core of them still stays the same. And that it's like superheroes and comic books and soap operas and all that stuff. I was like, oh, I get it now. If I actually follow these characters, I'll understand why they're doing the things they're doing. They're not just fighting. They're telling a story through their body, right? So that finally clicked. And so I started watching WWE because I now had access to it. At the same time, I had a friend get me into watching Drag Race, and I went, oh my God, this is amazing. This is comedy, and it's song, and it's dance, and it's looks, and it's everything that you want to see. I usually explain it to people as like, it's all the best bits of every other reality show mixed into one, right? So you're not just getting, well, here's a reality show where 20 comedians need to out comedy each other, and it's like, well, that feels really subjective, right? But if you do that, plus everybody has to dress up in the color gold this week, and then the worst two are going to have to sing and dance in order to entertain us and stay on the show. Great, I love this. So I got to a place where I was like, I really want to try these things. And in my head, I was like, oh, but I'm poor and I live in Toronto. I got to choose one of these things. And so at the time, I'd been training for bodybuilding, and I asked my coach, like, hey, do you mind if I go out and try wrestling training? And he's like, yeah, sure, go for it. Like, open yourself up to new things. So I went, I found Super Kicked, and like I signed up on the spot. And now, backing up one more step though, the week before I signed up, and the thing that made me sign up finally, was I had this reoccurring dream about meeting Kurt Angle, who is a big wrestler. And I just remember like constantly sitting down with him and being like, you're a good wrestler, man. He's like, thank you very much. And just talking. So I was like, I got to make these dreams stop. It's clearly in my head. So I went out, started pro wrestling. Then the drag came in later, because when you're training, one of the things you're asked to do is, I mean, you have to find a character. You have to find who you are in the ring. And everybody goes through growing pains of trying to figure out, okay, all right, let's try this. All right. So even though you're doing like a basic drill of get up, knock somebody down, get up, knock somebody down, get up, knock somebody down over and over again, you know, my coach would ask, like, okay, if you have ideas for character stuff, maybe try and work that into how you're moving or what you're saying and whatnot. And so I had tried a couple things and nothing worked before. I tried something and it confused people, and another one, they were like, well, I mean, you don't really, we can't understand what you're saying when you're doing it. So one day after watching like an episode of Drag Race, I'm in the ring, I knock somebody down, and just as a joke, I did, if you've ever seen Trixie and Katya's show online,
Okay.
I knock a guy down and I just crouch down next to him and I go, and get up and go to the next thing. And everybody lost their shit. I was like, oh, this is what it's supposed to feel like when it's right. And my coach talked to me and he's like, that was great. Whatever that was, I don't quite understand it, but whatever it is, it's great. Like, what's it from? You know, and you know, I explained it's like a drag things. Drag, wow. Yeah, that's interesting. But if you're gonna do it, I need you to do it 100%. Like, you can't just sort of do something. It's got to be like, okay, I am the wrestling drag queen. So I became the wrestling drag queen.
Perfect.
That's
Very
awesome.
cool. Very
And
cool.
now that you've stopped wrestling because of your health condition. Are you like getting into drag as a separate thing, or like doing drag as a separate thing, or?
I've done a couple drag performances outside of Superkicked, but I want to try and keep my drag mostly for wrestling, because it's a niche market that I can exploit, that I can go into and make my own little world. Trying to get into drag, especially in Toronto, there are so many drag queens out here that getting any kind of spot is really hard. So like I've performed a couple times at there's a cinema over here called The Review that puts on, you know, older movies and whatnot. And there's one guy who does a series called Dumpster Raccoon, where he puts on terrible movies purposely so people enjoy themselves. And so the first time I got to perform drag was during a screening of Cats, which is a garbage fire movie, but everybody should watch it because I love it. But getting to go up there in my purple and gold sequined outfit and, you know, do cat motions and whatnot, and people loved it. And so I got invited back to open for another movie, Hedwig and the Angry Inch. And so yeah, my performances outside of wrestling, they've been few, but in wrestling, that's where I really want to make my, like, this is my place, right?
Awesome. Thank you.
No problem.
Speaking of movies that are horrible, I was looking through your podcast, and Is It Camp? And I love the concept of it. I see there's like Rat Race and The Meg and all these other movies that I look back at, and I haven't watched The Meg. Tu Wong Fu, I love Tu Wong Fu.
Oh, The Meg was great.
I haven't seen it, but I saw the Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, and of course I've been an Elvira fan. Oh God, since
Elvira started.
Since mid '80s, I think. Yeah, mid '80s.
The body became percolated by your hormones. Okay.
The Elvira movie macabre. Well, this is the story. My older brother Steve, is gay, and he didn't know at the time. And we used to watch the Elvira show all the time. It was like the only thing that we would do. I'm looking back at my memories of my brother Steve, and not many of them are good, to be honest with you. But the ones that are good are things like the moments that we had when we watched the Elvira movie macabre, and just watching Elvira was so foreign to me. And the fact that I'm able to do that with my big brother was like so cool. And that was a huge thing for me growing up, like just watching these shows with Steve. Such an inspiration she's had to so many people. And of course, what's weird is she didn't come out until like during the pandemic.
Yep. That
she is actually with a woman. Such an inspiration for so many people. But the movie that you saw, it was just the movie though. It wasn't like looking back at all the things that she did. And so, Sean, do you know who Elvira is? Are you familiar with the whole character?
I think that John and I touched on it once or twice. I know he's mentioned it a couple times, and I haven't really like thought to dig into it a bunch, but I know of Elvira, I believe.
I highly recommend people look at the old stuff.
The movie alone is very good. It's such an excellent primer to the Elvira character. It's a genuinely funny movie for what it is. It's like it was from that time of the Tim Burton, Addams Family, Edward Scissorhands, where it's like, here is a creepy, dark, spooky person, and then here's this 50s kind of housewife town, and what happens when the one spooky person shows up in this town? Ooh, wackiness, right? But she's also doing it with bad dad jokes, an incredible thirst for the guy who runs the movie theater, and just enormous boobs,
which adds to the whole story. I mean, because that's her gimmick. If you see her as Cassandra Peterson, she's not all that. She's not putting that out there. She's a completely different character. The Elvira character is her inner character, and I've always wanted to have her on the show. I mean, I've actually sent a message and I never got a reply. I'm going to cry about that later. But until then, the podcast itself, like, how did that get started for you? And it's such a great theme, camp music, camp movies, so many great movies to go through with that.
So I do it with my really good friend from university. We had lived together for a couple years, and then of course post university, shit happens. Everybody drifts apart, and we try to become adults and blah 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 blah. But I reconnected with her online, and we just started talking and whatnot. And then one day, like I've been listening to podcasts for like 7 years now, and going through things, you pick things up, then you drop things off, and you go like, I don't know about this one after a while, and I don't like this host anymore and whatnot. And I really found that I enjoy podcasts where the people are talking about things they love, right?
Yeah.
And so one of the things I love is I love just that there's no real connecting thread. But then as I looked closer and closer, I was like, oh, this is all camp. All of this is camp, right? Even if it's bad, even if it's good. And it's not so much just a movie podcast. We do books, we do TV shows, we did an episode on People's Sexiest Man Alive, just talking about that whole thing as a concept. And we have an episode coming out at the beginning of October, which is about a musical version of War of the Worlds. Great. It's amazing.
Is that Jeff Wayne's?
Jeff Wayne's, yeah.
You got that. It's a double CD. Yeah, awesome.
So good.
Isn't it? Just the creep factor is there. It's just awesome.
Yeah. So we kind of came to this idea of like, we should do it on camp. We should be looking at things because there's a big part of the LGBTQ community is just being like, oh, that's camp. And people being like, I don't get what that means. Like, what is camp? And then trying to explain camp to somebody, it's a laborious process of being like, sometimes it's those things that are so bad they're good, but then sometimes they're also like really offensive, or sometimes they're just silly, but in the right way. And there's not really a concise meaning to camp. It's more so a feeling of something. So we were like, what if we did a podcast where you and I watched and listened and read and whatnot, all these things, and then at the end of it, just come to an idea of, is it camp? And then we called it, is it camp? It says what it is on the tin.
Perfect.
Yeah. Awesome.
And yeah, we've just had fun doing it, right? It's not, gangbusters numbers of people coming in, but we've done a year's worth of episodes. And at the end of the first year, we said, what's more camp than an awards show? So we made an awards show episode.
Love it.
And with the idea of being, we're not going to neg on anything. We're not going to say the worst movie and blah, blah, blah. Instead, it was, what did we enjoy of the last year? What was our favorite song? What was the moment that really made us go, holy shit? Which was, for me, from, did you guys see Malignant?
No.
Ooh, okay. Go see Malignant. Find it wherever you can. Watch it, because there are some moments in that movie. The first half of the movie, you're just like, okay, so it's like a creepy slasher kind of thing with a detective story. All right, I guess. And then it hits a point where you go, oh, holy shit.
Oh,
and then
no.
it keeps escalating from there. So
okay. My wife works in a movie store, so I'll have to tell her to bring that one home.
It was rated 6.2 out of 10 on IMDb.
So to be a camp movie, does it have to be a bad movie?
No, absolutely not. We've done. I'm even trying to think of the list that we've been through.
I didn't see a John Waters movie on your.
We haven't done a John Waters yet.
How is that even possible?
We want to save it for the right moment because we also like doing theme months. So like every second month for us is a theme month. And we've got it all plotted out. We've got a huge Excel spreadsheet mapped out.
Sean, you think I'm organized?
Yeah.
This is next level.
I make this joke all the time with Brian, and every time I tell people about about expressions, and I'm like, these guys are way more organized than we are. So
Brian.
It's Brian. It's
Brian.
Brian.
It's
Let's
just
be
Brian.
honest.
It's just Brian. But no,
You have to be.
We're not organized at all. But like again, it's part of the gimmick, right? Like I can understand like a podcast like something like this, right, where you talk about like being like a lot more serious conversations, a lot more in-depth conversations, whereas you have me and my co-host where we just literally fart around and we're just dicks to each other. That's just how it works.
We fart around too. Every episode we have is named after a joke that we come up with in the episode or something that we just found particularly funny. So next week is our episode on the Muppet movie. The first one, the original Muppet movie.
Nice.
And so we've named the episode, Is It a Great Muppety God? Because at one point during the episode, I don't know how we got onto it, but we were talking about that song from the 90s, What If God Was One of Us? And on the spot, like I ad-libbed this, what if God was a Muppet? Yeah, and so on and so forth.
One thing led to the other.
Yeah. But, the last episode we just recorded, we called it "Is It a Mayonnaise Sandwich?"
Love it.
It's like it doesn't have to make sense, but we're just farting around. We're big goofy goofums. Every once in a while, we get to something and we go like, "Yeah, that wasn't fun." But that's the point, right? Sometimes we watch things. In fact, we have a whole month every April we call it Mystery Month, and we choose things that neither of us have seen or read or taken part in or whatever, and we put that on the list, and then we come out of it being like, well, that was a dud.
That was a waste of an hour and a half.
Oh, no, I wish it was an hour and a half. There was one
no.
movie I put on the list that was like 2 hours and 10 minutes. And it was a musical from like the 1956. And we both came out of it being like, oh my God, what were we thinking?
So do you actually do your podcast like during the movie, like the movie plays and you guys talk about it as it plays?
No, we take it in ahead of time. One of us always does like background information and the other person does like more or less a synopsis of it, unless it's something like, if we're going to talk about like our episode on Lil Nas X, we just talked about him in general and how we felt and his music. But like, for example, I'm trying to think, we did an episode on The King's Daughter, which was a movie that sat in development hell for 8 years for very good reasons. And so we watched it, and Sarah did the synopsis. I did the background information because I was like, I want to talk about this. And I ended up talking about the aquatic ape theory, which is an evolutionary theory that at one point humans became mermaids slightly. It's not real. There's no evidence to back it up. But for some reason, there's scientists out there who are like, damn it, I know there's mermaids, and this is why.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just, we talk about whatever we want to. Every once in a while, we get a little more serious when it's like, okay, all right, some horrible things are happening here. Like our last episode we recorded, we talked about Orientalism from, the colonialism of our past. And we're like, yeah, boo this shit. Garbage. Who cares? But, we have fun. And that's the point, right? That's what you guys are here to do.
It's exactly right. I mean, that's literally the people we embrace most are the people that do their creative passions just for the sake of having fun and being creative and being able to express themselves. And I think it's really cool that we have these technology tools to be able to do these things and get that off our chest and be able to enjoy ourselves and express ourselves that way. And by the way, you and Sarah have great rapport. Your back and forth is spot on. She's really funny. It was really cool. So I recommend people check it out. Absolutely. Is It Camp is what your podcast is called. Mm-hmm. And absolutely check out that podcast, everybody. I'm babbling now. My blah, 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 blah.
It's that time of night, Brian.
It is that time of night. In fact, before we get to that time of night where we ask you our 3 questions, I just want to throw it to Sean, Mark, and Aurora and see if you guys have any other questions you'd like to ask Sam.
Okay, not everybody at once.
Doesn't
I know, right?
Hold back.
No, I just want to say thanks. Thanks for being on the show, Sam. It's been a great conversation. It was really great to meet you. So.
Oh, thank you very much. It's been nice to be able to talk about this kind of stuff because I feel like an oddity in that, I am the great big drag queen pro wrestling manager, and having to explain that to people, it's like, no, I don't wrestle drag queens and I don't manage drag queens who then go on and wrestle. I am the drag queen who manages the wrestlers.
Yeah. Perfect.
People in that world should be able to get it, though.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, in wrestling, people are pretty open to that kind of stuff.
If they can accept that the Undertaker is an undead wizard man, why can't they? He's an undead wizard man. That's his whole. And then briefly, he was alive and a badass biker, but then he became an undead wizard man again. It's just like, yeah, you guys can buy that the Undertaker can shoot fire out of the ring, but you can't buy that I can give a clothesline and 5-inch heels.
Well, that I can't buy personally, but I'm impressed by it that you've done it. So that's pretty impressive.
That would be so. I'd pay to see that. I would pay to see that.
I would pay to see that also. Actually, that sounds incredible.
It's easy. I don't know why everybody makes a big fuss about running in heels.
I just think it would be cool to see.
Poor Aurora, she's thinking of her ankles breaking.
I'm like, I'm not the most girly girl. I cannot in heels. So the things that I've seen drag queens do in heels is just like incredible to me. The things that drag queen, I was saying this to Brian because I was like super excited to have you on. I'm like, I've wanted to have a drag queen on since we started this show, because it's super creative in so many different ways. The choreography, the music, the dancing, the makeup. Like, I can't do anything near that level of makeup. I'm very basic when it comes to
neither
these
can I. I make it up every single time.
Which is awesome. And it's great that to have the confidence and just be able to do
That's
that. I think
what I'm writing a note on. Being secure enough about of yourself to be able to do it. That's what I love about it too.
It's just so awesome. And I've seen a drag show live once. I didn't know a whole lot about drag as a thing at the time, and I was kind of like unsure about it. It was for a friend's birthday, and then I went, and it was one of the best nights I've ever had with like the group of girls of our friends. And then later on I found out one of my siblings is in the LGBT community. They're non-binary, and like this whole conversation of gender being, as you said, like a work is totally true. And so like we got into watching Drag Race together and stuff like that. And I think it's just, and like things like Queer Eye and stuff like that. And I think it's just super amazing and super creative, and I'm just so happy that you came on. So I really appreciate that.
Oh, I'm glad to be here and just answer questions about this kind of thing, because I know for a lot of cis hetero people, because it's exploding so much and there's so much more representation, there are people not afraid of it, but more so worried about, like, I want to be able to interact with these people in the right way that's not going to offend them, that's not going to destroy any boundaries, and I get labeled as a bigot or whatever, right? It's just, if you go into it with an open mind and you ask like the appropriate kind of questions. Like, for example, a couple weeks ago, we had a show with Malachi Black, Brody King, and
that was a big show.
And that's what I printed off all the pictures for.
Right.
But partway through, because I worked with the merch booth, right, and the three guys were there. Brody King came over to me and he said, "I'm really sorry to ask this, but what are your pronouns?" And I was just like, "Oh, that's really nice to ask." And people will never get it. I mean, some people might, but those people are also assholes. So there's nothing wrong with asking somebody their pronouns up at the top of a conversation. And if you do get them wrong, you just make a mental note, adjust for later, do your best not to do it again, right? And most people will be absolutely fine with it, because unfortunately every once in a while you may misgender somebody who's probably been misgendered like 5 times already today, and they're just like, I'm so tired of this, right? But for the most part, I think many people are going to be like, they're trying to learn, they're doing their best, okay, we're going to throw them a bone on stuff. So yeah, just the fact that you're open-minded enough to think, okay, all right, well, there's so much more out there, why wouldn't we embrace all of this, right? Just don't be afraid to go out and experience it. That's all.
Exactly.
And this is why we do the show. This is why not the reason, but a big reason why I love doing the show is because there's a lot of stuff I don't know, and I've seen my generation change. I've seen the world change, and I know that I'm not educated on it the way I should be. So doing a show like this and talking to people who I don't interact with every day, I think is very important for me. Therefore, I think it's also important for whomever might watch the show or listen to the show, right? So I think that's a really important, powerful thing that we could be doing as podcasters. You doing it the way you do it, Sean doing it the way he does it, us doing it the way we do it. I think they're all valuable, and there's people out there who need to hear these different perspectives. So I think it's awesome. Sean, anything else you want to add?
First, again, thank you for being on the show, man. You're such an interesting human being, and I love it. It's fantastic. I don't really have a question, but I just want to let you know that you've encouraged me to want to learn more about drag and all this other stuff, because John's tried to get me, our other co-host John tried to get me to watch RuPaul and all this other stuff, and I was a bit like off put by it at first, and that's just me being a toxic masculine human being, right? But I'm opening my mind up, like you said, to tackle things with an open mind. So I'm trying to expand my brain power here to
what
figure it out.
season of Drag Race did he try to get you started on?
Oh man, he told me that there was one episode where Henry Rollins was one of the judges, and I was a huge fan. I'm a huge fan of Henry Rollins. He's like idol of mine. So I watched that, and to see such a grungy, like punk rock dude to go up there, and he mentioned something before that he said that Henry Rollins said something. He's like, honestly, he's like, I'm not like into dudes or anything, but he's like, there was some guys that like made that shit look so good. He's like, there was some movement downstairs. So I was like, if you can enjoy it, so can I, right? So I tackle things with an open mind, like you said, right? So you've encouraged me to open my mind a little bit more, which I thank you for, by the way.
Just like wrestling, just like music, like anything. If you find the one drag queen that you're going to be like, that one, they're funny as fuck, or they dance really good, or whatever it is that clicks you in. What I would highly recommend is go on YouTube and look up Snatch Game compilations. So yeah. Already Mark is losing his shit. So
there's just some gems.
Since season 3 of Drag Race, they have done every single season one episode dedicated to what they call Snatch Game. And the idea is it's Match Game, the old game show. If you know what Match Game is.
Yeah.
All right. So, but the thing is, the drag queens have to be able to do a character impersonation, generally of a celebrity. Every once in a while, they flex the rules to say, like, okay, we'll allow this one because it's funny as fuck. And you want to find the Snatch Game compilations of like the best of Snatch Game, because when it's bad, you're sitting there going, oh no. Well, I think like last season of regular Drag Race had the worst Snatch Game I have ever seen, because nobody landed jokes and everybody's supposed to be doing a celebrity impersonation. You're just like, I don't get any of these. Anytime somebody says they're going to do Beyonce or Mariah, they're going to crash and burn, because there's no personality to make fun of them there. But when somebody's like, but when somebody says like, oh, I'm going to be Carol Channing, you're like, oh, fuck, it's Carol Channing. This is going to be amazing. All right, somebody did a robot once. I already have my Snatch Game picked out should I ever end up on Canada's Drag Race. And originally I was going to do Buffalo Bill because I do a pretty good Buffalo Bill, but then I thought that's a literary character and also an extremely transphobic character at the same time. So not the best idea.
I thought you were talking about like
Or
from Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah, it's Silence of the Lambs.
Is that what you meant?
Oh, yeah,
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Buffalo Bill.
Would you fuck me?
Nice.
That whole shit. But also, how far could I get with? What are you, Rue? A size 14? Yeah, it's only going to go so far before it gets to like, now I'm going to skin you alive. So,
Oh no!
My backup character, and this is in case anybody is listening from Drag Race. This. My character that I'm going to do is. Anybody know who Brian Blessed is?
No.
Have you ever seen the movie Flash Gordon?
Oh boy.
Okay, so Brian Blessed is a huge character celebrity in the UK because everything he does to the loudest level possible. So I'm just going to move the microphone back. He talks like this! My God! Look at her eyes! And everything is, yes, most of those pictures are him yelling.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's got a great big bushy beard. He's a part-time adventurer. And everything sounds like that.
That's awesome.
So if I can keep my blood pressure from not killing me while I do that. But yeah, look up Snatch Game compilations on YouTube. You will be dying. You may not understand all the jokes, but when they land, you don't even have to know the context. You're just like, oh fuck. My friends and I at wrestling lost it when one year somebody did China. We were just like, oh, this is, and nobody else at the bar was laughing, and we're losing our shit going, this is the best thing. Why aren't you laughing at these great China jokes?
Although I have to add that another great one is when the jokes don't land and it's just crickets and they cut to Rue and he's going.
or when the impression is so bad that it somehow becomes good again. So like this year on All Star 7, somebody was Prince, but didn't know how to be Prince other than just sat there and went,
oh jeez.
Watch Purple Rain and solve the whole thing.
Yeah, really.
It didn't matter because it was funny as fuck to watch her sit there and just go
gestures. Awesome.
Oh, jeez.
All right. Well, if you guys are up for it, I think we have 3 questions that we have to ask Sam before we let him go today.
Dope.
Awesome. So the first question you already know the answer to. You've the challenge that we ask you to give our listeners. You gave us a great challenge. Do you remember what that challenge was?
I believe I said, go out there and find. I earnestly believe that in all art forms, there's a version of that art that you will like, that a person will like. If you've never read a comic book in your life, there's a comic book character for you. And it doesn't have to be a superhero thing. It can be like a sword and sandals epic fantasy, or it can be a slice of life comic, right? Same thing goes for wrestling and same thing goes for drag. There's a wrestler out there that you can get really into, even though you may have never watched wrestling in your life before. You want to see funny, you can pull up guys like Warhorse. He's a funny, on top of being a genuinely good wrestler, right? Danhausen is always a laugh. All right, there's guys I trained with. Mark Wheeler is the most manic, spoiled little bitch boy brat, and I love it. I love
Wheeler
every second that he's in the ring because he's learned how to use his face in ways that so many other wrestlers will be like, I'm going to throw a punch now. Punch. Whereas Mark's going to go in there and just be like, right? Huge facial expressions from him. If you want to see some really gory, bloody stuff, great. If you want to see amazing acrobatics, there's guys for that too. There's guys, girls, those in between and beyond that'll suit whatever need you want. And the same thing goes for drag, right? You want to see, there's Mark Wheeler right now.
Yeah. So I pull up a photo so you guys know who I'm talking, who he's talking about.
And same thing for drag, right? If you want to see great costumes, there's going to be amazing costume queens. There's going to be great dancers. There's going to be great comedians. There's going to be great speakers. Bianca Del Rio is an incredible comedian who somehow is able to recycle jokes from the 1950s and make you laugh at them, despite the fact that, you know, my granddad probably thinks that these are awful jokes because he heard them when they first were made, right?
Yeah.
It's out there, whatever the art form is. You know, talking about Tool earlier, like I've never listened to Tool properly, but I've listened to a lot of A Perfect Circle, so I know, I know, I went through my goth phase in high school, and so I was like, oh yeah, this is it, this is dope, right? Because it was more melodic than it was, like hard, because I never got into hard and angry stuff. But it's out there, right? If you find one Backstreet Boys song you like, you don't throw it out because you're like, oh God, Backstreet Boys. You just go, oh great, I love this song. Don't have to listen to the rest of them, but I love this one.
I like that approach, though. I mean, even if you were to apply that to wrestlers, there's so many wrestlers that I can't stand. And of course, my wife is, I'm going to say Shelly is the wrestling fan in our family, way more than I am. Since way back, I might have mentioned to you, she was at WrestleMania 6. I mean, she's a huge super fan. So she can look at wrestlers and appreciate them in a different way than I generally can. You know, I'll look at the wrestler and the persona and be like, that guy's an asshole, I don't like him. And then I won't like him in real life.
Right? But it's, do you not like him because he's doing such a good job of making you hate him? Or do you just like look at him and go, I don't like this guy?
And that's the question people don't ask. They just react and they don't think to ask that question. So really the challenge you're issuing is find the thing that you hate and find something you really like about it, and something you can appreciate about it.
Yeah.
That's a solid challenge if I ever heard one.
It's not easy.
I'm going to do it.
There you go.
I just pick Ford.
First.
I just pick Ford cars and
Ford.
Oh, I thought we were talking about the other Ford.
The other Ford.
No, I don't.
It's hard to find something about that. That's actually the very good challenge to do it on Ford for sure.
He'll be great worm food at some point.
There you go. Positive way of looking at it.
There you go. Glass half full kind of guy.
Next questions. The second question. Wait, what was that? Is everybody okay?
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
Right,
it's just me being a klutz, as always.
Okay. Just making sure Andrew didn't drop dishes again.
No, he didn't fall down the stairs or drop dishes again.
All right.
So
excellent.
We're good.
Okay, so next question. Tools of the trade, something that you can rely on that gets you through your daily life every day. Something that is just, it could be a tool, it could be a mental way of thinking, it could just be a philosophy, whatever. What would you consider a tool of the trade that gets you through your day-to-day?
Well, for a physical tool, I've always got like a podcast or music with me because I got to distract part of my brain constantly. It's got to be learning. It's got to be doing something. It's got to be absorbing something, whether it's just guys sitting around doing goofy goofums, or if it is genuinely like, and then the murderer stabbed them 27 times each. And you're like, oh, did they? Right? That's a general thing. But my kind of life thing, my life mantra is I will say that I shamelessly stole these and then smushed them together. I'm a huge fan of Terry Pratchett, and I'm a big fan of X-Men comics, and I have been for forever, for ages and ages and ages. And so in X-Men, there was a short run called X-Men Legacy, which was all about Professor Xavier's insane son. trying to come to grips with the fact that he does have multiple personalities, and how do I work with that? And he had this mantra he would repeat to himself. It was, I rule me, right? I'm the one in charge, right? And nobody else. It's me. I'm in charge of whatever's going in there. But then from the Terry Pratchett side, I'm a big fan of all the witches characters, especially like Granny Weatherwax. And she would say, soul and center. You have to be the soul and center of of yourself and your world. And so together it's, I rule me, soul and center. I'm working from the inside out, and I try not to let the external stuff get in the way, but sometimes it does. But that's why I've got the mantra.
Awesome.
I love it. It's actually kind of similar to mine. I've simplified mine as I shoot for me, which is, just giving me that permission to just do what I want to do and not have to do what this person wants me to do to shoot, or the style that these people want me to shoot in, or, or reasons why I shoot are my reasons. They're not, I'm not doing it to get paid. So I don't want to get bullshit from these photographers that shoot to get paid, that want to get pissed at me or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, I shoot for me, and I love that. I rule me, soul and center. Very cool.
Yeah.
All right. The last question before you are free would be, what's your jam? What's that one song that just absolutely gets you amped up? You never skip past, always get your 5-star.
Oh, that's that one's been going back and forth. I've been really jamming out to Pure Honey, but from Beyonce's newest album, which is, it's an amazing, like, if you want to hear what ballroom and the LGBTQ community sounds like, it's that song. I think my 3 proper go-to songs though are Nail Polish by Mylon, which is why it was my entrance music. Kimono by MNDR. And then the last one is I'm trying to remember the title and who sang it, and I hate that I forget both.
We put you on the spot. That's why.
It's a super tough question. Don't worry. We all have a problem.
I know.
It's so hard.
I'm gonna
ask me. I just style of music. I didn't even give it. I was like, music, what? Band?
See, I'm bad like that. I listen to Tool and pretty much Tool. Tool, Police, Rush, and I've got a song that I listen to every morning before I get ready, like literally every single morning. I know exactly how long it is, so it helps me plan my day. Like, I'm weird like that. I've listened to the same music since I was 15 for the most part.
That's okay. You know what you like. I figured it out. It's Slip Away by Perfume Genius.
Okay. Making
and it's
notes.
Just this, it's a very queer love song about just like, no matter how big this emotion gets and what else the rest of the world is doing, we can just let that slip away and hold ourselves in the center of it. And it's got a tremendous crescendo built into it too. So yeah, it's really those 3 songs are kind of my go-tos.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Guys, anything else you'd like to add before we say goodnight?
I just want to say thanks for coming on again, Sam. And where can people follow you?
So I'm going to use the spiel that I use for my podcast. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Rhys Indigo, all one word, RHYS, spelled the Welsh way. And you can follow the pod on Is It Camp Pod on Twitter and Instagram. You can find the podcast pretty much anywhere that you can download podcasts from. And the episodes vary in length. So if you don't want to spend 2.5 hours that we shoved into the movie Labyrinth, you can spend about an hour on an episode we did on Frasier. So
awesome. All right. Sean, Mark, Aurora, thank you very much for being here this week. And Sam, thank you extremely very much for being here as well. It was great meeting you in the store, and I'm really thankful that you took the time to be with us tonight. I think I learned some stuff. Sean, I know you learned some stuff. Mark enjoyed some stuff, and Aurora is just awesome, enjoying everything. So thank you, everybody who's watched, and I hope everybody has a great week. We'll see you all next time. Take care.
Peace.
Ta-ra.
Ooh, ooh, ooh.